In last session, we talked about Docker file to understand what all the fields, what all the informations are included in a Docker file. Then we had written few Docker files and we used Docker build operation to convert the information that is defined in the Docker file into Docker image. But so far, these Docker images are locally stored in the dev node. But in order to make it accessible to the other person or from other environments, we need to push it to DockerHub registry. So in this session, we are going to perform Docker tagging based on the DockerHub registry standard, and then we will push these images to the DockerHub registry for further sharing and access with other team members. Docker build operation includes writing a Docker file, then executing Docker build command, image build command to create a Docker image. Now the second function that we need to perform is, just because as you can see these images are locally stored in my dev node only. What if I want to use the same image from prod node? That means either I will have to do the same task again in my prod node, or we need to shift these images to a centralized repository so that anyone who is authorized to access or anyone who is in need can go and connect the centralized repository, access it, and then take the image, pull the image and run as the container. So this is very helpful for smooth operations. That means you might be knowing a concept called do not repeat yourself, and that's where the DockerHub registry is used. That means it is preventing you, it is protecting you from not repeating yourself. You can perform your Docker operation function once and then you can use it multiple times by placing it to centralized places. So before we start pushing these images to the DockerHub registry, let's access the DockerHub registry and see what all the things are there at present. So we are going to access it using hub.docker.com, and then it will ask for login and password. Of course, this is my login ID. Password is already saved. So I'm going to open it. You can see we had just created DockerHub registry account, and then we had created a repository name called a Docker demo, and it has nothing at present. You can see it is completely empty. It has nothing here. So what we are going to do is we are going to push the images from my Docker system to this particular repository that we had created. And how we are going to do that? We are going to use Docker push function. And the good part is you need not to worry. It has already advised what is the method, how you can use this particular thing to perform. It is saying you go and use in this order and do that. So it is saying you need to define your repository name and tag. So let's use this particular command, which is docker push. I'll paste here, and you see my system is saying repository name is this one. So I'll copy and paste here, followed by colon, and then tag is latest. So if you'll compare this, it looks like this only. Okay, so we are telling this is my repository name and this is my tag name. However, we are not telling the directory path, basically the registry path. I'll tell you why. So first of all, let's try to perform it. It is going to fail definitely. The problem here is this is indicating the tag here, but actually the tag is latest. So that's why my image is not being pushed to the repository. So that's why there is a process of tagging first. We need to tag, because if you look at the repository again, so at present our repository name is this and tag is this, but what repository is expecting? Repository is expecting us to have a repo name like this, and then tag should be the image name that you want to give. So that means in order to push my images to the DockerHub registry, I first need to retag my images in the desired format as defined here. So what we are going to do is we are going to copy it, this particular section only, and then I'll go back to my CLI, and to tag we need to use Docker image tag followed by the image ID. Let's say I want to tag Ubuntu system, and then the tag that I want to supply. So I'm going to supply this as the repository or registry, followed by colon the tag name that I want to give. So this is the tag name that I want to give for this particular image. Let's do that. It is done. Let's again do docker image ls quickly and see. You can see I got a new image which is the copy of the same previous image. So this is in local format, and that's why we cannot push it. In order to push any image to the DockerHub registry, it must be tagged like this. So tag name should be the actual name that you want to give to identify, and the repo name should be followed by the your registry name and then the repository that we have. So this is how it should look like. Now just because we sorted it, now we will be able to push it, but before that let's convert the other one also. So this is going to be my websys followed by the image ID, which is the different image ID. Now this is this one here. Okay, let's do the same command again. I have now total 4 images, 2 in the local format and the 2 in the format of DockerHub registry. Now let's try to push it. This time we will use the same command. We'll copy the command from here, directory itself, complete command, copy and then paste it. You can type it also. I'm just helping you to understand. So this is the repository name now, as you can see here, same as this, and then this is the tag. Now we'll copy this, paste this, and we are entering here. Again it is going to fail. You can see why it is failing, because if you look at the repository, if you remember when we were creating the repository, let me go back here, you will see it is private repository. You can see here at this place. So that means just because it is private repository, in order to access it, we must need to log in this my DockerHub registry to authenticate and authorize myself so that I can access the image that don't make any repository public until unless you are very sure that you are going to have very generic thing, because if you keep your proprietary codes and applications in the public repository, that means it will be accessible to anyone without even authentication. So try not to create public repository. Be very careful when you are creating repository. Make sure it is private before you start pushing your applications and images there. In order to push my images to the DockerHub registry, I need to log in into my registry, because that is private registry. And login command is very simple. We just need to use docker login and enter, followed by the username that we have, which is this one, and then enter the password, whatever password you have for your registry. Here we are. It will say login successful, login succeed. That means if we will perform the same command that we did executed last time, it should work this time. Let's do that quickly. Yeah, so it was able to connect. Now it started pushing the images, and if you notice here, right, it created that image into multiple chunks. You can see, so that it can perform parallel push using multiple threads to speed up the overall operation and function. This is one of the good enhancement with the kind of push operation. So by the time it is happening, let me pause the video, because it is going to take time depending on the size and speed of the internet that we have. Cool. So this is done. Now what I will do push the other image also. By the time it is being pushed form. So we pushed Ubuntu system, and then we pushed web system also. Just because web system was already in cache, it took faster than the web system, and as you can see, after refreshing it, we are able to see both the images are here. Ubuntu system was new, so it got pushed 2 minutes ago, but just because web sys was in cache, it is showing it is from quite long time here. That's all for the day. Hope you enjoyed watching. If you find it useful, please encourage us with your comments, likes, shares and subscriptions. Thanks for joining. Stay tuned for more videos.